The 2018 iPhone XR might be 6 years old as of 2024, but thanks to depreciation, you can actually pick one of these up on the used market for less than $170 USD. And so, could this be the ultimate bargain smartphone of 2024, or has its age gotten the better of it? Let's find out, starting with the design. So in terms of design, the XR still has an extremely sturdy and solid feel in the hand. With its curved aluminium sides and glass back, it definitely does have quite a bit of heft. It's 8.3mm thick and weighs 194 grams, so if you have small hands, you may have trouble using the XR one-handed, and just in general, it's a little harder to slip into those smaller pockets, etc., especially if you have a case on, but this kind of heft is pretty much on par with what we're getting nowadays on the vast majority of phones anyway, flagship or not. The XR has a very 2018 look with the older larger notch and not the dynamic island like we're seeing on the new iPhones, and the bezels are significantly thicker than what we're getting these days on phones as well. But all in all, I'm kind of splitting hairs here, you're still getting an immersive all-screen layout. In fact, this was actually the first quote-unquote budget iPhone with the all-screen layout. Back in 2018, the highly revolutionary home buttonless all-screen iPhone X had just debuted the year before, so for a more affordable iPhone to carry this design was a big deal back in the ancient days of 2018. I was probably only around 3 months old at the time. Inside the notch though, we have the components for Face ID, which still works super well, recognizes you straight away, and only takes a second to get you into your phone, so no complaints there. Face ID has of course been improved over the years. Nowadays it's slightly faster and you can be seen from more angles, but it's not really a big enough difference to make any difference. On the bottom there's the lightning port for charging along with the speaker and mic, and I honestly think the speakers on here are somewhat impressive for what they are. There's a good amount of bass, and while things never really sound great on phone speakers, audio on the XR is decent for what it is. Moving to the back of the XR, this was actually the last iPhone alongside the XS to have the iPhone text at the bottom and the Apple logo far up the top. The following year they moved it to the middle and got rid of the text for the square camera bump that would debut on the iPhone 11 series. Oh, and also worth pointing out, there's also IP67 water resistance on here, although given the XR's age, there's a good chance that the water resistant sealing on a lot of these phones has worn down by now or been broken altogether through people taking them apart and fixing them, so I wouldn't rely on it too heavily. And if you're one for colors, the XR absolutely does not leave you short of options, with blue, yellow, coral, red, white, and black. Kind of reminiscent of the multicolored 2013 iPhone 5C if the 5C hadn't crashed and burned. Now moving back to the front of the XR, we're met with what was once quite a controversial aspect of the phone, the display. It's a 6.1-inch LCD Retina panel with a resolution of 1792 by 828, along with a pixel density of 326 pixels per inch. This panel looks absolutely fine. It's not the sharpest panel out there. If you look super closely, you can see individual pixels, but still being a Retina display, they're nowhere to be seen at just a normal viewing distance. Colors are super accurate and vibrant as well, and being 6.1 inches, it's quite an immersive panel for watching YouTube videos, playing landscape games, reading articles, and viewing photos as well. It's also got a peak brightness of 625 nits, so it doesn't exactly shine like the sun, but you should still be able to see what you're doing even if you're outdoors on a bright day. Although it's only an LCD display and not OLED, so black shades on here aren't actually black, but rather a dark purpley shade, since the pixels on LCD displays are controlled by multiple backlights behind them, whereas on OLED panels, individual pixels can turn on and off to produce a true black shade. LCD displays on smartphones nowadays are only really seen on cheaper phones, so this hasn't aged too well, but it's pretty benign if you're not really into the nitty-gritty display specs. Although the actual resolution of this display is only around 828p, so you can't actually watch things like YouTube videos or Netflix content in full 1080p HD. And this caused quite a lot of backlash back in 2018 since that didn't really match up to the XR's $749 price tag. Now, I did say that the pixel density was sharp enough so that you couldn't make out any individual pixels, but it's actually the same pixel density or sharpness as on the iPhone 4 from 2010. Although this isn't nearly as bad as it sounds, since the iPhone 4 was the first iPhone with a Retina display, meaning that, again, from a normal viewing distance, you can't make out any individual pixels. And Apple had used this same pixel density or higher on every iPhone since the 4, so it technically wasn't a downgrade, but after the iPhone X's stunning high-res OLED panel had debuted the year before, people were itching for something better. What those people were forgetting though was that the whole point of the iPhone XR wasn't to have the most bedazzling display, but for people to transition to the new all-screen layout at a more affordable cost. And to make that possible, Apple did have to exclude a few bells and whistles, and if those quote-unquote bells and whistles are unnoticed by 99% of iPhone XR buyers anyway, then that's literally cost-cutting done right. And I mean, it still looks sharp enough and shows things clearly with accurate colors, which realistically is all that most people want in a phone display anyway. And if you did want to treat yourself to the crispiest of crispy displays, there were, and still are, the iPhone XS and XS Max. Now, the display on the XR may be good enough, but something that's absolutely terrific are the phone cases on offer from today's video sponsor, Magback. Not only do their cases offer the best of the best in terms of drop protection, but with the mag sticks, you can mount your phone to any surface, whether that be in your car, in the kitchen, or even just to show it off to your mates, all while the raised and padded corners provide top-end drop protection. And since the back is magnetic, you can stick it to any metallic/magnetic surface, including whiteboards, kitchen benches, or even elevated doors if you like to live life on the edge. Plus, it's MagSafe and wireless charging compatible as well. Magback also offers a wallet accessory, so you can say goodbye to the stress of constantly having to keep track of your wallet and look for it at the last minute, especially since your phone, and therefore also the wallet accessory, can be located with the Find My app in an emergency. It magnetically sticks to the back of the phone case, no glue required, and you can remove it at any time. And so if you're looking for a high-end, multifunctional, solid and well-built case that won't fall apart in a few months like many other options out there, head to my link in the description below to get 15% off. And thank you so much to Magback for sponsoring this video. Now moving to the cameras on the iPhone XR, it's a pretty simple setup, just a single 12 megapixel main lens and a 7 megapixel selfie camera. The main lens on the XR still performs just fine. Despite its age, you're still getting very consistently solid photos. Dynamic range does well, detail is fine, and so are colors. I mean, phone cameras have seen a lot of improvement in the past 6 years. With newer cameras, you're going to get much more lifelike and vivid colors, better stabilization, higher resolution photos, and just more camera features in general. But just looking at these photos without any comparison, if you're just someone who wants to capture memories and capture them well, as you can see, the XR is more than capable, and you can still get some pretty nice scenic shots as well, especially for the price it's at now. Portrait mode on here is alright, although being only the 3rd generation of iPhone with portrait mode, you can only use it with people and not pets or objects, but it still does the job all in all, although the XR did miss out on night mode by 1 year. That would be introduced the following year with the iPhone 11 series, and night mode is an absolute necessity when it comes to shooting in dark environments. You're getting much better color balance and detail than with just the flash, so that's honestly a pretty big drawback. Same goes for the lack of an ultra-wide camera, another thing the XR missed out on by a year, and the ultra-wide camera is just something that we expect to have at the ready nowadays, but this was not the case in the primitive days of the XR. But to be fair, on any product that's quite a few generations behind, there will be some significant features missing, but what isn't missing is the ability to just take good, solid, consistent photos that still look perfectly good and well, even 6 years on. Pretty much the same is true with the selfie camera. Photos are just super consistent and well balanced, and I really don't have any actual complaints here, apart from that it's just 7 megapixels and not 12 or something higher like we're getting nowadays, so the resolution is noticeably more pixelated if you zoom into photos, but just looking at them normally, selfies on the XR are absolutely fine. Now video can be recorded on here in up to 4K at 60 frames per second, and yeah, same story as the photos, just really well balanced with accurate dynamic range and colors, great stabilization, and lots of detail. Of course, it's not going to be as good or as detailed or as well balanced as newer phones, and no, it doesn't have numerous video features like cinematic mode and Dolby Vision HDR recording, but when it comes down to just capturing your memories in good quality, again in 4K, you really cannot fault the video on the iPhone XR. Something else you can't fault on here is the performance. The iPhone XR comes equipped with the Apple A12 chipset along with 3GB of RAM. Yes, the A12 is getting on a bit as of 2024, but it still doesn't fail to provide a smooth and snappy user experience. Just swiping around the interface is still very responsive, and apps open pretty fast. You can scroll social media, browse the web, send emails, and use maps without any lag. Despite its age, the XR still feels quite on the ball. Yes, if you've used a lot of iPhones, you can sort of tell it's not as instantaneous as newer phones, and sometimes it might bug out when opening apps, but it doesn't happen often enough to actually get in the way of the overall user experience. It's still responsive and fluid enough. With heavy games, most of them do run well. There might be a little bit of lag here and there on occasion, and the phone will probably heat up to the temperature of the sun depending on just how heavy the game is, but generally speaking, the XR can run pretty much any game and any app with no kind of detrimental lag that's going to really genuinely affect the user experience. Of course, if you were to compare side by side to something newer, there would be maybe a few seconds delay when opening apps, and you would notice that the XR would feel microscopically less buttery, but that's expected given the phone's age, and as I said, it's a microscopic difference anyway, not noticeable through just going about using your phone. So yeah, despite being a 6-year-old smartphone, miraculously, the XR's performance does not disappoint. And whether all you expect to do is call and text, or you like your heavy games, performance on here won't let you down. But being as old as it is, will it let you down in terms of longevity and future software support? Well, considering that Apple has very recently revealed that the XR will in fact be getting yet another year of software updates this September with iOS 18, that'll make for 7 whole years of software support from 2018 to 2025, matching the record of the 2015 iPhone 6s, which is the longest supported smartphone in history. 7 whole years of full software support and usability. Absolutely insane considering that most people upgrade their phone every 2, 3, even 4 years. Unfortunately, Unfortunately though, iOS 18 is likely to be the last of the software updates for the XR, as 7 years is a heck of a long time, and the 3GB of RAM will probably be pushing it for another update. I mean, we don't actually know until Apple will actually tell us at 2025's WWDC, but considering it's already going to get 7 years of support, I really don't see it getting iOS 19 next year. Although, you never know, Apple has been known to surprise us at times. So yeah, unfortunately, if you do buy this phone, it'll probably only last you in terms of software support until, again, September 2025. After it gets cut off though, you'll still be able to use the phone as you would normally. It won't just magically stop working overnight, plus you'll likely get security patches for a few more years as well. But over those next few years, apps will slowly get more and more incompatible with the older software version, certain features within them will stop working over time, and they'll just get generally more glitchy and buggy than usual. But if all you're really doing is texting, calling, browsing the web, and taking photos, this is going to be a much more minuscule issue compared to if you were using a lot of apps and playing a lot of games. If you're in that second category, then the obsolescence of iOS 18 in a few years' time is going to be a lot more prominent than if you're more so just using the basic functions of the phone. But whether you're just using the basic functions or you're using your phone as a mobile workstation, a good battery life is something you'll never regret having. The XR packs in a 2,942 mAh cell, although given the XR's age, there's been quite a lot of time for the batteries inside these phones to degrade, so most of them will last nowhere near what they used to back in 2018. So definitely make sure that the battery health in settings is around 90% or higher, as anything lower will likely entail not only having to be charged more often than usual, but also random shutdowns and extreme lag, so absolutely vital to check the battery health of the phone before you buy, and if it's had a battery replacement, even better. With a good condition battery, the XR will get you through the day with light to moderate use, but if you're a heavy phone user, you'll definitely want something newer or with a bigger battery capacity, since it probably won't last you until the end of the day, but it should still hold up just fine if you're not absolutely glued to your phone all day, and just periodically use it to check social media, watch a YouTube video, or call someone, but playing lots of heavy games and binge watching Netflix for hours is going to be a bit of a stretch. And so with everything about the iPhone XR in 2024 now covered, is the XR a good place to put your $170? Well, a lot of aspects have actually held up pretty darn well. The design feels premium and solid, the display isn't great but good enough for the average person, the cameras can still take great video and photo, performance is smooth, and battery is still decent provided it's healthy, but it's the lack of future software support beyond September 2025 that's going to be a deal breaker for a lot of people, especially considering that the iPhone 11 can be had for not much more. You can get them for around $200 on eBay, and because they're a generation newer, they're going to get more software support, likely up until around 2026 or 2027. Plus, you're most notably getting an ultra-wide camera and night mode on there, two things that have pretty much become the norm nowadays. You're still getting the same design and display, but also an upgraded chipset and a slightly better battery life, so for that little bit extra, the 11 is leaps and bounds better value than the XR, or you could even go for an iPhone 12 at around $250 and get a super sharp OLED display as well. I could keep going on about all the other options, but the main point is that the XR's value for money simply doesn't stack up well against the 11 and 12 being much more future-proof for very little more, as well as sporting better performance and more features overall. Of course, you could buy an iPhone XR if you found an absolutely diabolical deal and don't care about the software support likely ending next year, but at the end of the day, again, the 11 and 12 are much more so worth your hard-earned paper. But all in all, the XR has been an absolutely terrific phone over the past few years, and with it still being in use by millions today, that just goes to show how iPhones really are built to last. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful, please make sure you drop me a like and subscribe to TechSpree to find out what tech of yesterday is worth it in the present day. Also, if you'd like to have a stalk, my Instagram is at tech_spree and my Twitter is at techspree1. Thank you so much for watching, this is Tom with TechSpree, and I'll see you as always, next time.